Welcome to Happily Ever Afters, where love doesn't stop at romance. Join us as we share the tales of everyday magic and celebrate life's sweetest moments. Hear inspiring accounts of love, intimacy, and pure joy as we uncover the secrets behind true devotion and partnerships that really work. Brace yourself for a full-on heart melting. Here's your host, Carlos Clemente.
Hello, America. Another edition of Happily Ever Afters. Thank you and welcome to the show. What's love got to do with it? That's what we talk about, right? Now, love can be another person. It could be a thing. But you know what? It could be the most.
A cat.
A cat, dog, or whatever. And we're going to find out about that today. All right? My lovely co-host is here, Dorothy, Lucey.
And I'm excited to talk to Beth because, Beth, I have a broken heart over a pet, so we have lots to discuss.
Well, let's introduce her first. Tell us who we're talking with.
Oh, we're talking with Beth Bigler, who is try and understand this, a very funny grief counselor.
That's right. Who says grief has to be all sadness and tears? We have a lot of laughter in my grief counseling.
I have so many questions for you, but we know you are married to the love of your life, have a beautiful son, but your happily ever after was Arnie.
Is my sweet cat Arnie. That's right. There he is. That's my love. You know, Carlos, I got a bone to pick with you. I heard on your Margaret Cho episode that you said you weren't sure that cats could look into your soul. So I'm just hoping that look from Arnie maybe changes that for you.
Okay. Well, I've had cats before, so I know they can.
All right. Excellent. Well, yes.
How did you and Arnie first meet?
It's a long and wild story that we don't have time for today, but I just told it on my Instagram. So if anybody wants to hear the full detailed story, it's a wild one. But the short version is that I had adopted 2 cats from the Pasadena Humane Society in California. Love them. They're doing an amazing work right now supporting Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh, they're putting so many owners and pets back together after the fires.
They are incredible. I'm so grateful to them. Grateful to them for bringing me my first 2 cats. And after I had one of those cats home for 6 weeks, believe it or not, the owner of that cat came forward and said, "Hey, I think you adopted my cat out," which they had. So I reunited those 2, which was very sad for me. I ugly cried for days, but I wanted to make sure those 2 got back together. And I knew that my veterinarian's office had some kittens. And so I went there. And the veterinarian brought this little tiny scrawny 2-pound kitten in. And she said, "Isn't he just the cutest thing you've ever seen?" And she was kissing his nose. And she said, "He gets these little boogers on his nose. Isn't that adorable?" And I was like, "Not really. It seems kind of gross." It was definitely not love at first sight. But she had been caring for this cat. It was Arnie ever since he had come
I just love the name, by the way, Arnie the cat.
Arnie the cat, and I can't take any credit for it. I actually asked one of the vet techs there who named him, "Hey, how'd you come up with that?" Because it was when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor in California. So I thought, and I asked, I was like, "Was it after the governor?" And they were like, "No, he was just so pathetic when he came in. He was underweight. His older brother had eaten off his whiskers, so he didn't have any whiskers." And she said, "I just looked at him and I was like, oh. Me," and somehow landed there. And he did know his name. So I kept it because it was a cute name for a cat. So my veterinarian actually put us together, and best gift of my life.
How many years were you guys together?
We were together earthside for 12 years, and we've been doing it the other way for the last 6 years. So we are still going strong, evolving and expanding in our relationship.
How has that made that your happily ever afters? What about this relationship with Arnie made it your happily ever afters?
Well, I feel this way about Arnie. And of course, I feel this way about everybody that I work with. People come to me, to work through their grief about their beloved animal companions, whether it's a dog or cat or ferret or rat or horse or bird. I've worked with all kinds of animals. And so there are some universal things, of course, about our beloved that are also true about Arnie. Arnie was accepting. He was loving. He was non-judgmental. He always really embraced me for who I was and didn't have unrealistic high expectations expectations about, who I was supposed to be. A really important lesson that he taught me was the power of rest. He would just come over and he would sit on my lap and he'd be like, you're not going to go now. It's time to rest. And I made this rule that if Arnie was on my lap or on my chest, I wasn't going to go anywhere. I was going to really try to sit and be present. And I learned so much about the power of rest and being present from him. I also learned a lot about self-compassion and worth. Before I met Arnie, I'd had a lot of ups and downs in my life. I had a lot of hard things. And some of those experiences left me not so sure about myself. And Arnie taught me that he believed in me and that he cared for me and that I was somebody worthy of being loved, which I think is one of the most powerful gifts we can receive. Because if we can receive it from our beloved animals, we can learn to receive it from others, even if it's kind of scary.
How long did it take you to recognize that, though?
Pardon?
How long did it take you to recognize what Arnie was trying to give you?
Well, it was an evolution, right? I mean, little things would happen here and there. I'll give you an example. Another gift from Arnie is that he taught me I could really depend on someone. I could count on him. And in my life, I hadn't always been able to count on people. So I'll give you an example. One time, I had a lot of problems. I detached my retina in my eye 4 different times.
Oh, God, my husband's had that. I feel your pain.
You feel the pain. I laid on a couch for 5 months. I couldn't get up off the couch. It was really hard. And in one of the surgeries they did, because I had a bunch of surgeries, they actually made it so I couldn't see anything out of either eye for 48 hours. I had no vision while the surgery kind of calmed down. So I didn't have anyone to stay with me overnight. So that's a different surgery that he helped me through, that photo. And so I was laying on the couch and I got up in the night and I had to go to the bathroom. But I was in a tiny apartment. So I was like, I got this. I'm just going to feel my way. I'm going to go slow. And Arnie always slept right next to me. So, of course, he got up too. And I got up and I was like, I can do this. I can feel my way. And would you believe, I stand up and I feel his tail on my shin. Like it was right there. And I was like, what's he doing? And I'm like, okay. So I'm like shuffling along and he never leaves. He has his tail pressed up on my shin and he is guiding me to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, a seeing eye cat, which I've never heard of before.
Nor have I. And, I went to the bathroom, did my business, got up and he stayed there. He put his put his tail back on my shin. And you know what? On the way back, I walked normally because I knew he had me. I knew I wasn't going to run anything. He knew what the assignment was. And he took me back to that couch and helped me, find my way.
So when he passed, that's when you started the grief counseling?
Actually, he was diagnosed with a really crappy cancer. He got a really bad prognosis.
I had a kitty that had cancer.
At that time, he was only 11. My whole world went upside down. And I found the most incredible pet loss grief counselor myself. And I went and started doing some anticipatory pet loss grief counseling work, which is something you can do with someone like me or another grief counselor before your animal transitions to help you with that very tender period. Fortunately for us, we did get a remission on that first cancer, and he lived 1 more year. And unfortunately for us, a year later, he got a different cancer, very aggressive. There was nothing we could really do to treat it. So we had to make a very sudden decision to euthanize him, which was very painful. But because I had done a lot of that grief counseling work on the anticipatory side, I was able to show up and give him a great death and a wonderful transition. Somewhere in the middle of that, I had an experience where I helped a woman in a waiting room who had an emergency with her soulmate cat. And I realized in helping her, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do with my life. And Arnie and I could do this to help people someday. So after his transition, I took some time to grieve and mourn and make sure I was feeling, in a better place. And then I started my training, I opened my practice, and now I've helped hundreds and hundreds of grieving guardians with their losses as well. It's the most fulfilling work I've ever done in my entire life, and I love everything about it. Every single day, Arnie and I get to show up together. We are helping people. I take his gifts, guidance, lessons, and teachings that he brought to me, and I help others. And it's the most beautiful, evolving relationship that we have. And every day we get to work together and be together and help others and help everyone who is going through this kind of thing.
Gosh, I feel like you have a psychic connection with him.
And what a wonderful way to lead into your book. Tell us about it.
Thanks. Well, yes. So I have a book coming out April 22nd. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. This is a book that's designed to help any griever who's experiencing animal loss. It's a daily book of meditations, very short, digestible thoughts about things you might be experiencing in grief, common kind of grief symptoms, ways to help take care of yourself, and most importantly, how to continue connection with your beloved. You know, Dorothy, there you said like in a psychic way, and I don't view it that way, although if that's your jam, absolutely go for it, because we can continue these relationships through including our beloveds and talking to them and, you know, really feeling close and connected to them, even if it's not like in a psychic way. So I have a lot of practical tips and how-tos for how to do that in the book. So
Well,
it's a very awesome way to help people who are grieving, especially if you know someone who's going through it and you want to give them something that might bring in meaningful tools.
Oh, so many people. I have two friends who just lost their homes, and both of them within a week of that had to put their dogs down. It's just, I still feel grief from my Millie, who I always call the least fancy dog in Malibu, and that was 4 years ago. So just how do you tell people to start the grieving process? What's just, I don't know, like how do you begin, because it's a deep pain.
One of the deepest. In fact, many people I work with feel that the grief for their beloved companions is even more intense in certain ways than human loss, which is absolutely true because of the intimacy and the proximity and the daily routine of our relationships. And oftentimes our animals are often our confidants.
And like you said, the non-judgmental love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your animal never lied to you, never betrayed you, never let you down, you know, and that's huge. So how do we begin? Well, you know, number one, permission slip to grieve. Permission slip that this kind of grief is valid, it's profound, and whatever you're experiencing or feeling, you are allowed to feel that. You deserve to express it. And even if there's people around you who don't get it, find yourself to a community of people who do understand. Pet loss grief is very powerful, and we don't want to ignore it in society. So first place to begin is just to acknowledge this is a profound grief, and you have permission to feel your feelings. And then the second follow-up is like, feel your feelings. It's really tough to kind of sit with how hard it is, but definitely don't stuff it away or tell yourself stiff upper lip. You know, we don't want to do any of that. We want to grieve this as profoundly as you would grieve any kind of loss. This is your family member. So I think that's the place to begin. And then, of course, reaching out for community. I mean, this is why people find my Instagram account. People find so much comfort in the comments and participating in those conversations. And then if you feel like you need deeper support, reach out to me, any other pet loss grief counselor or mental health professional who specializes in grief, particularly animal grief. And, you know, learn some coping strategies, learn some tools, get some validation for what you're experiencing, because it's a big grief and we want to find ways to support it. So don't be afraid to reach out.
How do you turn it around? What's the quickest way to turn this grief into a happily ever after moment where you just you celebrate what you had? What's the best way to do that?
Well, you know, grief timelines are tricky, right? So I'm never going to tell anybody grief is a quick process. You know, you grieve forever. You love them. You're going to grieve them forever. You're going to miss them forever. But a really nice thing to start thinking about, now maybe not immediately, but as you go down the road, is getting into this we mindset is what I call it. You know, when you hear me talk about things, Arnie and I are doing grief counseling. Arnie and I wrote a book. We still do things together. We still go for walks together. We still have time to hang out together. When I think about him, I connect with him or I write to him. I am still spending time with him. I'm still prioritizing him. I'm still choosing him. And getting into that mindset that we can still celebrate each other. We can still have an ongoing connection is huge. And that's little things like, you know, I encourage all my clients to have a signature color. So my couch is orange because everything in my life is orange because Arnie is an orange cat. So I always choose orange things. That's just something little. I use his name when I go to Starbucks or when I get takeaway food, and I put all my orders under his name so that I get to hear his name said by people. I talk about him all the time. I share stories. I continue to include him in all of our holiday rituals, right? You know, we are taught sometimes in our sort of grief illiterate, death illiterate culture that when someone dies, we have a funeral, everyone cries, we never talk about it again, right? But that is not how it has to go. We can continue to live their legacy, include them in our lives, and have continued relationships with our beloveds long after their transition. So the key in many ways to me for helping with that acute pain of, you know, the feeling like, oh, they're not here, which is true. They are not earthside, but it doesn't mean the relationship has to end. So that's the best thing that you can get to. Sometimes it takes some help getting there, though.
You know, it's amazing. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you. There is so much love coming out of you.
Yeah, you
right
kind of
now.
glow.
I mean, there's this aura about you. As it is just, it's not just the feeling about Arnie. It's just you have an aura about yourself. A self-confidence is coming out that is just amazing.
And you already helped me. I mean, I've had 3 kitties in my life that I love, but my ugly dog Millie was really my soulmate, and you've already helped me today in many different ways.
That's awesome. Well, I love that you openly use that term. I'm here to validate, hey, we can have soulmate pets. We can have several, we these relationships are so profound, and our beloveds can be our greatest teachers, our greatest influence. And that's amazing. And I feel love and radiate love when I think about Arnie, when I talk about Arnie. I have so much deep gratitude for him. And I wish we'd had longer together. I wish he could have been Earthside longer. And I know that I can continue to take what he gave to me and spread it to the world. And that is a powerful way to keep his legacy alive. And all of us can do that. Think about all of Millie's lessons, Dorothy. Think of all the things that are different about you because Millie loved you and chose you. So that you can
See, I told her she wasn't cute, but she was a love.
Smile. Hey, Millie. Way to go. Good work.
I had a cat named Baby, and she lasted 17 years. And
That's a good long life.
So she was something else. When I had kids, she didn't want to have anything to do with the kids, but we had other cats come in the house. They knew she was the queen.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
she would talk to me. It was always fun. I could sit and talk to her, and she would just answer back.
Yep.
But I'll always remember that about her.
My brand new daughter-in-law has a 20-year-old cat named Izzy. And we all hold our breath all the time when we're around Izzy, but Izzy is hanging in.
Amazing. I love that. I love those the old cats are the best. My cat Zelda, who I adopted basically at the same time as Arnie, she transitioned a couple years ago at the age of 19, and she had that grand dam cat energy, very Judi Dench kind of, and she was the queen, and we all knew it. And I miss that energy in our house. It's so palpable. If you've ever had that old lady cat energy, it's a specific thing.
We're going to have to wrap it up here.
Oh, Beth, we love you.
But
I love you.
one more time. Take what you've given us, pass that on to others, and tell us how to make this happily ever afters for them.
Fill your days with gratitude for your beloved. Really absorb their gifts, guidance, lessons, and teachings. Understand what they are here to show you and reveal, and keep that work going even after their transition. If they taught you about being loving and kind to you, you start being more loving and kind to you. Everything they gave you, you can continue to give to yourself because you have the best teacher in the world. And let that be your happily ever after with your soulmate pet.
Let's show the book one more time there if we can.
And love to the humans in your life, too.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I have wonderful humans in my life, but I am a better wife. I'm a better mom because Arnie was in my life, and I'm very grateful to that. And he continues to help me in both of those realms.
You're a cool cat lady.
Yes. Now, your book is April 22nd, correct?
April 22nd, Honoring Our Animals. You can pre-order now on Amazon, and also come find me on Instagram at Honoring Our Animals. I do a free live monthly memorial service where I'll read the name of your beloved for the whole world to hear in celebration of their life. So please come check that out. And I post twice daily original content with tips and ideas and inspirations to empower and validate pet loss grievers. So
I'm following you.
All right.
Great.
Can we have you on again sometime? Is that possible?
Anytime. I love talking about this, and especially I love talking about relationships. I work a lot with couples in my work, so I see a lot of the ways that animals, impact relationships, and sometimes grief impacts relationships. So that's something we could totally get into in the future, or anything you want. I'll be here
thank you.
anytime.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for being on the show today. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. We got the social media. We got everything. Yes. But this is what happily ever is about. It's about love, finding different ways to show that love. All right. It can come from a person, it can come from an animal, from a thing. It's just, what's love got to do with it? It's got everything to do with it. So thank you again. And that's another edition of Happily Ever Afters.